tentar, para além daquilo que está no livro, quero responder, em primeiro lugar, agradecendo ao André Ventura, que já não está cá, mas simbolicamente, aqui ao Dr. João Caiado Guerreiro, que é um brilhante advogado e um político adormecido, como eu chamo. Está adormecido politicamente, mas está quase a acordar. Está quase a acordar. And I would like to thank Mr. Paulius Kuncinas. I really appreciate that you came all the way from Brussels to Lisbon just to introduce a book about President Donald Trump victory, and it's a great honor for me because you haven't read the book entirely due to Portuguese comprehension or understanding complexities or difficulties, but nevertheless you accept to come and present the book. So I think for me it's a great gesture and a very significant gesture of sympathy, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I will just, com a vossa permissão, vou só fazer um breve comentário em inglês, de forma a que o Paulo possa também compreender. Well, first of all, the main reason to write this book was to discuss in a very, as much as neutral possible, the environment that led to President Trump's victory. I have read some books about President Trump, published in America, but they were either on Trump campaign, so Trump's campaign managers, staff, like Roger Stone book on the making of the president, Corey Lewandowski more recently, and the other side, like psychiatrists, psychologists, writing about how Trump is crazy, how Trump is unable and fit to hold the office of the President of the United States. So very biased books. And what I tried to do was to analyze in an impartial way, which does not mean in a critical way or in an apologetic way, Trump as a politician. And Trump as a politician is not attachable or attainable from the person, from Trump as a person, and the TV reality. I do not, when André Ventura, for example, say that you cannot include me in the one side or the other, is because I understand some of the reasons that led to President Trump's victory, and I see some rational elements, some rational causes that led to his victory, and on the other side, I do not think he's crazy or is alone, is a fascist or a Nazi. No, because the concept of populism is very poorly understood here in Europe. Because here in Europe, populism is everyone who defies the establishment. Anyone who defies the status quo is a populist. This is incorrect. For example, in the book, I describe or I expose the definition of populism by Professor Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, who is our president of the Republic. And the definition is populist is when one puts the emotion over the reason. So when you have an emotion over the reason, it's populism. Well, but our president says that he's the president of affection, of cheering up the people. His main function is to cheer up. That's populist because he is overstating the emotion over reason. Well, for example, for the European intellectuals, Netanyahu is a populist. Netanyahu is the opposite of a populist. It is a very popular politician. Someone saying that he doesn't know how to lose elections. It's impossible for him to lose elections, no matter what, no matter how lawsuits or investigations that he may have, is always winning. And so, but he's not a populist. As Donald Trump, there is a story about a conversation between Trump and Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon told Trump that you are our populist leader. And Donald Trump said, no, I'm not populist, I'm popularist. Which, we say that our perception is that Trump is a lunatic, that does not do not know anything about politics. But this is a very old discussion in American legal philosophy and political theory. You have popularists, and the inception of the American Constitution was led by the popularist movement, not the populist movement. And America, the populist movement, have never really had a chance in terms of winning elections. You have the Ross Perot, but did not win any election. You have cases of very specific historical cases in a very segregated society like Wallace, but you know,
you had Hogan.
Yeah, well, you have the governor of Minnesota, Hogan, and another one, but in a state basis, not United States, not in the federal government. So. And Donald Trump is rescuing the popularist movement, but is a new popularist movement based on the circumstances of our times, of this time of American existence. And you know, after the Obama years, Obama was the most European political leader of American history. So. Barack Obama would be an amazing European leader. Because why? Because Obama is very good at speaking, very good at rhetoric, but not so good deciding. And when he decides, usually was a bad thing. So, especially in foreign policy. So, it was very fit to be an European leader. So, like the president of the European Commission, it would be great. But it's not exactly the kind of president of political leadership that the Americans want. And we as Europeans can or may criticize the Americans for this option, the option of choosing Trump over a more establishment, more European-style politician. And but Donald Trump is not an exception in the American history. For example, Ronald Reagan, the first time he ran for office, Reagan used the motto, the phrase, the slogan, "Make America Great Again." So it was exactly the same motto, the same slogan that Donald Trump used. With one curiosity, because Donald Trump, I don't know if you know that, but Donald Trump trademarked the phrase "Make America Great Again." So from now on, no one can use the phrase without if they are not in the Trump campaign. So we should demonstrate how Donald Trump thinks and his perception of the role. But if I do believe that despite the flaws, the characteristics or another thing that we can say or say not about Donald Trump's character, I do believe that the first year in office was very effective. Well, there were some troubles in terms of the definition of his administration, of his high-rank officials, but that's normal when you are an outsider and you want to promote some change in the administration. It is normal that you have to redefine your strategies and even your personal choices. I do believe, however, that the administration is far better now than it was from its inception. But if we analyze rationally, coldly, I would say, I believe, for example, in foreign policy, Donald Trump was far more effective than Obama. The choice, the decision, historic decision, and the history will say that Trump is right to move the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. For example, the pressure on the European leaders to assume responsibilities, as you say a few minutes ago, to increase the budgetary percentage, the budgetary amounts in defense affairs, in the defense, so that we can make NATO more effective, with more capacity to respond to some challenges. So in economic, for example, something that we Europeans now believe that is impossible, to reduce the tax burden and create a more competitive tax environment for corporations. The European is following the exact opposite side, and very badly. So there is some, and the troubles and the problems that exist in the American society are not the responsibility of Trump. They were there before Trump. They can be hidden, they can be not outspoken for some period, but they were there. The Americans never came up really from the Civil War, and we see some disturbance, some divisions from that period and that secession period. There is an unsolved problem in the American society even today. So, even in the discrimination policy, there is no, weaken of the enfranchisement so far. So, I do believe, and in a neutral, non-label kind of appreciation, I do believe that Donald Trump is surpassing the low expectations that Europeans, pundits, media had about his administration and his presidency. I don't know if you want to. Do you agree? Or
It's certainly surprising. I mean, surprising depends on your view. I have a very good friend who he's a very big fan of Donald Trump, and he always tells me when we argue, he's one of the very few politicians who actually tends to follow through. Because when they first elected him, everyone was saying, no, he's not going to build the Mexico Wall. He's not going to do fiscal tax cuts, which I agree was a great move. He's not going to have trade war with China. For a year, there was nothing. Because everyone was saying that was basically a phony trade war. But you're right, once he gets going, he's one of those few politicians who actually tries to keep his promises. Whether they're good or bad, that depends on your perspective, but he is quite consistent in following through most of his campaign pledges, right?
Yeah.
We're used to now that politicians always when I'm in Italy, when I speak, and they say, I ask them, how come you're promising 100 billions of euros? Where are you going to get the money from? They say, promises are there to be forgotten after elections. And I think where he has definitely surprised us is how much of his agenda he's actually implementing.
Yeah. And notice that Trump used these the art of the deal techniques. Donald Trump followed as president, and that is very interesting because someone would say that Trump did not write the art of the deal. Maybe he did not write the art of the deal, but he read. He read because he's applying the exact same principles that he defended back then. So, Trump understands that politics as life, as marketing, is about expectations. So, when you put the expectation low, if, for example, some people say, I'm going to build the wall. He knows that the pilot will say, no, you're not building the wall. This is crazy. So, even if the wall is not a wall, it's a fence that already exists but is higher, we accomplished that. So politics is about expectations. That's why, although these obstacles, these back and forth in Trump administration decisions, the truth is Trump is ahead in the polls with 51% of approval. So, and 51% of approval means that the base will elect Trump is now, he could actually move forward that way, step forward that way. The demographics that will support Trump now is different than the basis, the demographics will elect Trump. And that is very interesting. We, in Europe, we don't have that perception. But if we analyze America on a daily basis, that's one conclusion, and that no one has predicted.
I agree.
So now I'm going to talk in Portuguese.
Sure.
Just to, eu, se quiser colocar alguma questão ao Paulius, só discutir, eu abdico da minha intervenção final. Alguém quer? Não.
Eu gostava de fazer uma pergunta, mas não vou abdicar da tua intervenção final.
Não.
Isso nunca vou abdicar. First of all, I have to thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to us all to meet you and to congratulate John for this fantastic presentation and the book. And I'm going to ask you a little question about Lithuania and